Hey, before we get into today's episode, if you're a podcast host or guest, listen up. I've produced over 200 podcast episodes and guested on 50 podcasts just in 2025 alone. And let me tell you, nothing grows your audience or builds trust faster than being in front of the right listeners. That's why I created my podcast tour offer. I'll help you map out your topics, strategize your message, and find you the most aligned podcasts and audiences to get you and your business in front of. So if you've ever thought, I just wish more eyes were on my work, this is your sign. Let's get you on a podcast tour. You can find all the details in the show notes. Just look for podcast tour. Now let's dive into today's episode. If you've been curious about guesting on podcasts, but something just keeps stopping you, you're not alone. Every time I've been speaking to virtual membership groups of female entrepreneurs lately, the same questions keep coming up. I'm going to answer them all in this episode, and they are usually based around fears. So yours are probably not unique. We think we are. Our brain tells us we're the only ones with these thoughts, with these feelings. The more I talk with other women, guest on podcasts, and connect with people, the more I find out that we're a lot more similar than we think. So know that you're not alone. Know that, I don't want to say it's like normal, but you can get through it. And I'm going to dive into some questions that I keep getting of why podcast guesting feels risky and what fears you might have about when you get into it and you're on the show. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I regret what I've said? What if I don't want to share the episode? Those kinds of things. So the reason podcast guesting can feel risky is because you make it about perfection. We're in this world of perfection, right? Social media is completely a highlight reel of our lives and our businesses. And we curate the perfect image, the perfect caption, the perfect reel. While we're just trying to do our best, we're actually training ourselves to feel like everything needs to be perfect. And the really great thing is that podcast guesting isn't perfect. And when you get on a podcast, you can't make things perfect. You can't speak perfectly. You just don't. I don't either. These episodes, if they sound perfect to you, it's because I'm editing them and I'm cutting out long pauses and I'm cutting out ums. And when I say something wrong, I re-say it. And that's what happens a lot of times when you get on a podcast. So just know that, again, someone's doing some editing, some zhuzhing up of these things. And so you don't need to compare yourself to the final finished product and comparing your beginning and your first reps at speaking on podcasts to that, right? And the other great thing is that people are really craving authenticity right now in the world of AI, in the world of perfection. And a podcast guesting experience can help you speed up that know, like, and trust for a variety of reasons. One, you're borrowing the host's trust they've already built with their audience, and you get to tap into that because it's like saying, hey, I've vetted this person. You can trust them. You can believe them. And then not to mention, they get to listen to you for 30 plus minutes talk. And you can't really AI yourself around answering host questions in a podcast episode. So you come across so much more human, so much more genuine. It speeds up that know, like, and trust factor. In the world of a major trust recession, you get to tap into this platform that speeds that process up and really crushes that recession that a lot of us are experiencing on other platforms. So one of the first things that people always ask is, well, what if I don't have any clients yet? I'm not far enough along. And so can I still guest on podcasts if I don't have, a lot of clients? Maybe you've pivoted in your business and you're kind of starting from fresh, or you just haven't been able to consistently get clients. And so you feel like you don't have the right qualifications then because of that to speak on podcasts. And again, that just comes back to our conditioning where we need to have a college degree to do our job. We need to have a certification. We need to have this proof, this bar that we've set in our mind in order to be able to do this. Just the other day, I was talking with a friend and I was like, oh shoot, I'm only halfway through. I was trying to send off podcast tours and I was trying to see if I could get through 4 in a day. I've only ever gotten through like 2 in a whole day. So anyways, she was like, is this really a deadline, or like, is this self-imposed? And I'm like, oh yeah, of course this is self-imposed. I don't need to have these done. I wanted to get these 2 off and I did. So a lot of times it's something we make up and decide for ourselves, releasing yourself of that expectation. You don't actually have to have clients yet. If you know your offer, you know who you want that client to be. And the answer is not just like, oh, I want to help everyone, right? That's not deep enough. That's not clear enough. But if you know who is that client, who is he or she, and what are they like? where are they at in their business and what is your offer that helps serve them, you can still go on a podcast tour. You can still speak on podcasts. Full disclosure, January 2025, when I decided, hey, I'm going to lean into podcasting because I've already tried 30 reels and 30-day challenges. I've started a TikTok. I've started a LinkedIn, and it felt like that just sucked. Okay. I didn't like it. And that's not to say you can't like it. If you love LinkedIn, if you love a TikTok, great, do it, lean in. I love podcasting. I knew I needed to lean into that. It feels so aligned. I get to meet people. I get to have deep conversations. Anyways, I love all of the things. It creates ripple effects when people listen to you. It helps give voices to other people, to women who aren't heard as often as men, etc. Okay, so I leaned into podcast guesting because I like that. And obviously you're here looking for something different. And so that might be a sign too. But January 2025, I didn't have clients signing up on a regular basis. At that point, I had probably 4 podcast tour clients total. I didn't even have the podcast tour like system framework that I have laid out now. I didn't even have it laid out how I wanted it or how I envisioned it could be. I was still figuring it out. I share that so that you can sort of see that you don't need everything figured out before you start getting visible. And I'm going to do an episode next week on why a podcast tour is always relevant, why it is perfect for the beginning of your business, the situation I'm just talking about right now, why it's perfect for when you're launching, for when you're scaling, and when you're established. So anyway, stay tuned next week for that. Another question that people were throwing at me was, what if I say something I totally regret during the recording? And, this is like about releasing control, right? Because you're not in control of what gets edited and you don't get to be part of that process. But what I can tell you is 90% of podcast hosts edit. I do some type of editing. It's very appropriate to be able to ask that ahead of time. And if they say no, they don't edit, then your brain just knows like this is a different scenario. We need to push through. If we fumble, whatever, keep going, fix it as we go and just share. But if they edit, which likely they do, often you can just say, oh, I want to restate that, say it again. And then they'll just cut that chunk out in the before whatever you said. And if you get done and you're really like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I talked about X, Y, and Z for 5 minutes, like that cannot air. I don't know a host that is going to be like, nope, I'm going to air it no matter what if you reached out to them after the fact as well. Because it's not like your episode's going to air that exact same day. So you do have room. And just know that the host wants you to succeed because they want the episode to be presented in the best way possible. They want you to do well. They're not going to let you sit there with dead air and fumble. Just know like you're having a conversation. You're not giving a TED Talk. So that's the beauty of podcasts. They're not supposed to be perfect. Another question I get all the time is, what if I don't like the episode? This kind of goes hand in hand with that last one. What if I don't like the episode after hearing it? What if I was on there and I realized like I don't even like agree with this host and I don't like how this episode turned out? Okay, well, 2 things. One, do you not like it because you're being too hard on yourself and you think it's like not up to snuff and you didn't do a good enough job? Then that's just part of the process. You're going to get better. Let yourself put those reps in. Don't beat yourself up. Think of like one thing you can improve for the next time and share it, because that in that case, like you really need to share it. You're going to burn the bridge with that host if you don't. It is so deflating when you have a guest on and they don't share the episode, because part of you having a guest on is that you get to tap into each other's audiences. So share it. If you get done and you're like, I cannot be associated with this because I didn't believe what the host, then something was wrong in your process and you didn't listen to their episodes. You didn't check them out enough to make sure that you are aligned with them. That is a really important part of my podcast tour framework. And that's why I tell people you can't just have your VA, and this is not a knock on VAs. You guys are amazing. You literally help grow businesses, but not all VAs are created equally and not all have a podcast background or expertise. When I hear about this happening, it's because they sent their VA to go find them podcasts to be on and they just went to find anything that's accepting guests. Then you, the actual person showing up to the interview, you hadn't listened because you just trusted the VA. They were getting you set up and you show up to the interview and you realize, oh my gosh, I don't even like this host. I don't like anything they're about. I can't share this episode. Yeah, that's a problem. And you're going to fix that problem if you do just a little bit of work and a little bit of time spent listening to their podcast, checking them out. You're going to get a quick vibe check and then that's not going to happen. So anyway, do I have to share the episode? This goes with those last 2. And like I said, yes, you should be planning to share the episode. If you agree to be on a podcast, that is part of the agreement, share it, right? There's not a lot to say about that one other than what I've already said, and that you're going to piss some people off if you don't share the episode. That doesn't mean it needs to be on like your main feed of your Instagram, right? It can be shared in an email that you send out to your group. A lot of times I'll share an email and at the end I'll have PS, hey, I was just on this show this week, and link it. So there's a variety of ways that you can share it. It doesn't have to be on like housed on your main feed, but I don't know why you wouldn't want to share it, because even if you don't think you did a great job, other people aren't going to be paying that close of attention. And this is going to showcase you. This is part of that authority building, that not everybody is putting themselves out there like this. Not everybody is doing this kind of work where they're speaking for an extended period of time about their story, business, and expertise. And you are choosing to do that. So by sharing that, hey, I was on this podcast. Hey, I spoke here. I spoke to this membership group. You are being shown as up-leveled version compared to other people that aren't choosing to do that. So it is a huge part of the process. It's a huge part of how this highlights you as an industry leader, and it's definitely something you should be doing and planning on doing. To wrap this all up, the thing that all these questions have in common is just coming from a place of, what if it goes wrong? What if it's not perfect? This fear of not being perfect or not being good enough. And I'm telling you right now, you are good enough. Someone's waiting for your voice. Someone's waiting for your take, your story, and how you do things, because they haven't related to Sarah and Sally and me. They're waiting for you. They're waiting for you. Trust in that. I know it's true. You know enough to help your people. You don't have to be the best leading expert in your field to go speak on podcasts and provide value. All right. And as always, if you want to go on a podcast tour, that is linked in the show notes. I'll see you next week. Hey, before you go, if you've ever wished podcast guesting or hosting felt a little easier, you're going to love this. I started a free podcast matchmaking community where hosts and guests can actually connect, swap shows, and find aligned conversations without all the cold pitching and chaos. It's totally free, it's super fun, and it's growing every day. So whether you're looking to grow your audience, get in front of the right people, or just finally get your message out there, come join us. You can find the link in the show notes to join the community.